Go.
All right. Hey, welcome to the Cam and Otis Show. This week, good buddy, my favorite thing to say, good buddy of mine, Matt Stevens, CEO of the Honor Foundation. And y'all all know that, I pump a lot of veteran nonprofits, and I have a handful of them that are at the top of my list, and this is one of them. The Honor Foundation does a great mission. Hey, Matt, welcome to the show.
Thanks, brother. Great to be here. Really appreciate it, and looking forward to the conversation.
Yeah, great, man. And let's kick off a little bit about name your bucket. And I'm not going to use THF phraseology, but name your bucket that the THF, your job at the THF, the Honor Foundation, fills up by being part of it.
That's a great question. You know, what really it does for me is gives me fulfillment every day, because everything we're doing is all about helping other people. And there's something in that, after 26 years in the military, with a very clear mission. It's when you leave active duty service, as you probably know, that's a pretty big gap. And, I didn't even realize it, but coming back to the nonprofit sector, which I never in a million years thought I'd be there in a nonprofit role, really allows me to fill that cup, help people out every day. And it's really cool to see the metamorphosis of somebody on day one when they are really insecure, and then gain that confidence through the program and the mentorship at the end of the program, and have the confidence just to crush it in the private sector.
Go ahead, Kim.
Go ahead. Oh. I was going to say, Matt, do you think that that theme of helping people, is that something that was overarching in your life? Because obviously, serving your country, that's something that people talk about as sense of servitude, and then coming back in the nonprofit world. Is that something that you always had? Were you helping stand up to the bullies in school and that type of thing? Or is this something you found more during your service?
Yeah, probably really got refined during my time in service. In school, I tend to always stick up for the underdog, which is a character flaw in me a little bit, because it can be fairly annoying. But I joined the Navy really because I didn't know what else I wanted to do. I knew I wanted to serve a larger purpose than just, going to college and making a lot of money or finding a job. And it seemed like a really adventurous thing. So some of it stemmed from lack of understanding. It was also something that not a lot of people from where I was from were doing. And so it was completely different. So I would say the aspect of once you're in the mix of the service and really start digging into everything about serving your country, it's that probably helped the most reinforce what I would imagine are instilled values. But I wasn't volunteering every weekend at the soup kitchen in high school and junior high or anything like that, quite frankly. So yeah.
So when I'm curious, because I can tell you when my call to serve happened. Because if you went to the Naval Academy, right? I got that. I remember that, right?
Yes.
I mean, that's not just hey, let me submit a form and go to this college because community college ain't for me. I want to go someplace else. It ain't that easy. So when did that call to serve hit you?
It was in high school. Sophomore year in high school. I can tell you the exact moment where I really thought it'd be the right thing for me is, at the end of the year, there was a big award ceremony in the gymnasium, West Charlotte High School, Charlotte, North Carolina. And there was a kid who was a senior who was got an appointment to the Air Force Academy. And they had an Air Force officer get up in front of the whole school and basically say, hey, this guy is going to the Air Force Academy. He has earned what's an equivalent of a $400,000 scholarship. Then when he's done, he's going to have the opportunity to go fly fighter jets or bombers and, do something really important for our country. And he was the only kid really that had anything like that. All the other nerds were getting math awards and science awards, and it was just kind of super different. And at the time, I had no idea what I wanted to do. I was only a sophomore. I thought I was going to be a pro baseball player. That didn't work out, and so I really started digging in at that point. And this is 1985 probably, so there's no internet. You mail off a little mailer to get information about whatever, the Naval Academy, the Air Force Academy, and they send you a catalog. And from that moment on, I just started really researching, and made the decision then to focus on earning an appointment to one of the academies. And also along the same time, there was this, remember Parade magazine, that little insert that came in the Sunday paper?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Love that.
Yeah. So there was one that came out right around 86, 87 that featured Navy SEALs, and it was about the toughest men alive. And that was way before every single SEAL wrote a book, because I know you're going to make a comment about that.
I wasn't going to say anything.
Yeah, I know you weren't.
We got all those SEAL jokes out last week with Brent Cooper.
Okay, good. I'll do that. That was the first time I'd even heard about Frogman, Navy SEALs, and that just added fuel to the fire, and that was what I wanted to do since the minute I got into the Naval Academy.
All right, then I got to know, was it Naval Academy first, or I mean, it's just us, right? Or did you apply to all of them and just hope to get one, or what?
My overarching goal was to serve my country at the highest level that I could, and so I did apply to West Point and the Air Force Academy as well.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So I'm hearing, and very similar path to me, and that's probably why you and I get along so well. I discovered it my freshman year, and actually mine was, I wanted to be a fighter pilot, and my dad was an aerospace engineer, and we were in the shadow of Carswell Air Force Base and all these sort of things. But he dumped the reality of, I wore glasses at the time. It's like, son, pilots don't wear glasses. You can never be a pilot. And I was like, shit, might as well go in the Army then.
Good choice.
That was pretty much how I ended up in the Army. Was, oh, I can't fly? Well, might as well be in the Army.
Yeah, it's very cool.
Well, when you separated, you went off into the civilian world. You did that. Were they a government contracting company, or what did they do?
I worked for a small tech firm up in near the Boston area. They made drones. They were actually a manufacturer of tethered drones. It was a great company. They did sell to the government as well as to private and other public organizations. So think large oil and gas that need security at refineries, the Secret Service, the Border Patrol, all U.S. government type entities that could use a drone flying at 400 feet for hours or even days at a time without having to recharge the battery. So that was a great learning experience for me. Really enjoyed working with them. I wanted to go into a small tech company. Wasn't interested in joining a huge company and being just one of the nugs in it. In fact, I had interviewed with a very large corporation, and it felt very much like going to the Pentagon when I interviewed. And I did not enjoy my time at the Pentagon, so I steered clear of that type of environment. Just wasn't for me.
Go ahead, Cam.
Well, so I'm stealing your question, so I hope this is where you were going with it. Matt, what was one skill from your time in the military that you apply now working with the Honor Foundation, or then also at that tech firm when you got out of the service?
Yeah, I think pretty easy and common thing is really just the, you would call it the troop leading procedures in the Army, right? So it's how to attack a problem, make sure everybody has the information and they're ready to go, prepped at the right time, the right place with the right gear. And so my first week on the job, for example, we were flying a demo for an NFL football team. And, day 3 or whatever, I'm just kind of like, all right, what's the plan? What is the brief? When are we getting that? The PLO? And didn't really happen. And so and then when we got back, we didn't hot wash or after action the whole process. And so taking just little things, you call it something different than a warning order, but instituting like, hey, here's what we have coming up next week. Here are the people we need. Here's the stuff we need. Here are the steps we have to accomplish before we actually get out the door. And then prior to the actual event or whatever it is, just some sort of overarching operations brief where you delineate, here's what the admin and logistics requirements are. Here are the communications plans. Here's the chain of command, for lack of a better term. Here's what we're actually doing. This is the meat and potatoes of the execution. And then on the return, when we get back, we're gonna clean our stuff and then we're gonna talk about what we could have done better. So, taking that methodology, calling it something different, because it doesn't work really well if you say, all right, let's do the warning order now. And the civilian population was like, what are you talking about? Warning for what? But really just maybe adding a little structure to it. Super simple to do as long as you approach it the right way and call it different things. So I found that pretty helpful. And then instituting after action reviews after a program was done or a demonstration or something. It can be anything, but really just hashing it out and saying, hey, listen, I think I always led with, I think I did this incorrectly. I could have done better. Here's what I think you did really well. What do you think you could have done better? And the approach is a little different, but the outcome is the same. And I think it's super helpful.
In that first instance where you were kind of starting to apply this to the nonprofit sector or to the tech firm, I guess at that point, is that something that you noticed the positive effects of pretty quickly, or did it take people a little bit of time to get used to it?
I would say it was pretty quick. Again, it's in the approach, right? So it wasn't militaristic or anything like that. It was simply just saying, hey, I was not the CEO, so it was like, hey, boss, what do you think of doing this? Getting buy-in from everybody, and then again, leading with my own vulnerability when things didn't go well, and saying, hey, here's what I could have done better. And then once I led with that, like in the after action review, I found that others were willing to open up a little bit more and make it. At the end of the day, you got to be honest with each other, and if you want to succeed. And so, generally, I felt it was really well received. It gave the CEO skin in the game because we briefed him prior to doing things, and then we looped him in on the backside on the after action reviews. So it's my opinion.
That's spot on, man. I mean, all the guys that I've coached over the years, and by guys, and I mean guys and gals, the active duty service members. There we go. I'll define it, not just throwing it out there. Everybody I coach, but every veteran and active duty service member I've coached, I've hammered that message home so many times. And it's like, man, you have had the greatest problem solving process ever invented, drilled into your DNA. I mean, you just do it naturally. All you got to do is learn to translate. And you just said it right there, man. You're a living example of it. You're like, well, hey, why don't we talk about some things and get everybody set up and prepared? And then, what about the plan and how do we execute it? And then after we're done, why don't we talk about it and see how we did and how we can do it better? It's shocking. And I think it's and I'm curious if you went through this same sort of thing, because I did it, and I've talked with a couple of other vets over the years that have done the same thing. When they separated, they did, I'm out, next phase of my life, and stepped away from it completely, and then figured in their head that everything had to be new and different and relearn everything. So did you have a similar experience, or was it different?
I would say that it was different. I wanted to learn new things. That excited me about my transition is I wanted to learn as much as I could, as fast as I could about the business world. and I think I was 47 or 48 when I retired from the Navy. So I didn't feel personally that going to business school was the right call. I'm more of a, at this point in my life, more of a, I think on the job training would be more suitable to me. So that was kind of what I wanted to do. But staying connected to the community was also a part of what I did. I was involved with the Honor Foundation at the time, created a special ops advisory board, and then I was invited to actually be on the board of directors. So that kind of, wasn't all like, I'm going to cut it off, jump off the cliff and never come back. And there's, interestingly, I didn't really know how my skill set could translate. I knew I could do well. I'd done pretty well, I think most of my time in the military. So I knew I could do it. It's just figuring out exactly how to do it was undetermined. But I think, to your point exactly, is the skills that you learn, the leadership, the communication skills, whatever in the military, that stuff is timeless and translates completely into any aspect of life, in my opinion, whether it's business, your personal life, other government service. It absolutely translates. And as you said, it translates, but maybe the approach is different or the language is different. The vernacular is slightly different. So I knew I wasn't going to drop like my methodologies completely. So yeah, that's a long answer to your question.
Oh, but the thing I think was critical there, though, and a big differentiator between you and me, is you had the opportunity to go through the Honor Foundation, which those 12 weeks, I've seen it, not gone through it, but been a supporter of it and a fan of that program. And the skill sets and the support that all those service members get going through that program helps to mitigate doing what I did, which is, hey, I'm out, thank you very much, see you guys later, sort of thing. And that ain't the right solution. And I think that's a key piece that I've picked up from the Honor Foundation. And I'm gonna flip that back over from you, kind of as an alumni and as the leader of the organization now. What, if you could put it into that little package, what is it? What is it that the guys and gals that go through it get?
Well, that's a great question. I would say what they get is they get confidence, number one. And, our program's about 3 months long, as you said, and it's a process. So transition doesn't happen in a weekend. It doesn't happen overnight. It doesn't happen the day you get out of the Army. In fact, it probably takes years to, ultimately transition and call it good. But we're a transition institute that really helps the special ops community. We provide a clear process for them. We feel that they have a lot more to give to the country. They often are leaving a very tribal, tight-knit community because they volunteered to serve. They then volunteered to serve at a different level. They made it through some sort of selection, assessment, and training program, and then they served honorably in the special ops community. And so can actually be a tougher transition than your average person coming out of the military after 4 or 6 years, because that becomes your life. And so what we try to do is help them find fulfillment, give them clarity and confidence in the journey of finding that fulfillment through a 3-phase process. We spend a lot of time in the first phase dealing with you as a human. So diving really deep introspectively into what makes you tick. And the reason that's important is because it's very clear when you're in the military what your purpose is every day, right? Even if you're an admin clerk or a logistics person, or you're an operator who's doing some sort of, administrative duties that day, you're still putting on the uniform, you're going in, it contributes to the mission. What is that now when you leave the service? Because probably for most people, it's the first time since they're 18 or so where they get to make that choice. So understanding the choice, understanding what the priorities are for them and their families, making it a family evolution, and then digging deep into really that purpose, that the why, what is your why, what's your reason for being on the planet. So figuring that out first is probably, in my opinion, the most important part of it. That then drives the rest of it. And you don't have to go chase money if money is not the fuel for your fire, or you don't have to go chase a location because you think you want to live back in wherever it is you came from. We offer this process to them so that they can understand, find that purpose and clarity. And then we give them some of the tools, the tactical tools in phase 2, how to build a resume, LinkedIn profile, talk about yourself in a respectful manner. Again, not the boastful, write a book kind of thing, but how to advocate for yourself. Because most of us don't like talking about ourselves. We like talking about the team. And so you have to kind of get over that hump, but you can do it again in a respectful manner. And then we expose them to, in the third phase, to a lot of different things like entrepreneurship, different company cultures, human resources type folks, all different aspects of the business. And we in a non-COVID environment, we take them on a trek to a metro area for 3 or 4 days to expose them to all different types of industry, sizes of businesses, and really digging into the cultures of where they might fit in. The exposure is important just to help them understand what right looks like for them. And so I know this is a super long answer to your short question, but at the end of the day, it's about helping them find fulfillment. And that's what I think that it is. And fulfillment is different for everybody. I don't measure, and I don't care what people do. If you want to go be a park ranger, great. Chase squirrels down all day or count raccoons, awesome. If you want to crush it on Wall Street, that's fine too. If you want to be a coach, or come back into the nonprofit sector, or be a government service employee, I mean, that's all great. It's just different for everybody. So I hope that at least touches on what you were looking for.
Yeah, it does. And I got a really, it's a tough question, and THS been around long enough that maybe you've defined it. But this came up the other night. I'm friends with Hark Harold, who's COO of Bunker Labs. We catch up over a beer every so often, as I do. Said, so how you measuring success, man? Are y'all hitting it? I mean, what's it like at Bunker Labs? Are you thumbs up, or where are you at on that? And it's like it's hard to measure. So I'm curious, because THF kind of in that similar field. Hey, we're helping veterans. How are you measuring success at THF?
Yeah, that's a great question, and it comes down to each individual. If we helped each person just a little bit in one realm, I call it success. Now that doesn't really fly when you're trying to raise money in a nonprofit, because donors often ask you, what are your metrics? And so what we try to do is measure it. We call it fulfillment, right? So what is our fulfillment rate? And so what we've defined it as, and this is not the only answer, but within 90 days of leaving active duty service, has the veteran either, number one, found a job that they want in the location they want? Have they started their own business? Have they gone on to some sort of higher level of education, whether that's a bachelor's or a master's or a doctorate? Or are they taking a sabbatical on their own terms? If they've hit one of those 4 within 90 days and they call it fulfilled, then we say, okay, that's the fulfillment rate. And to date, our fulfillment rate is like 95%. And there's always a couple folks who drop off the grid completely and you never hear from them again. And so it's tough to count them. And that generally drives up the 5%. We just don't know what happens to them. But I'm really, really proud of the team for making a difference in so many folks' lives. And again, we don't measure salaries or anything like that, or count that into our metrics of success because it doesn't matter. Yeah, I mean, if somebody's making $1 million a year, but they think life sucks and they hate their jobs, that's not fulfillment, in my opinion. But if, like I said, if they're a park ranger putting on their Smokey Bear hat every day and their shorts and making $40,000 a year, and they love their job and they're getting up happy every day, I call that fulfilled 100% of the time. You know, so it's a great question. That's our definition. But again, if I help every single person in just a small way, even if they don't realize it, I'm very happy, and that's true. I mean, we do. So
I love how your process starts with the understanding your why, because I think that's so essential for it. Because especially when you start trying to measure success, because this is something we've talked about so times, and there's all sorts of economics that actually define this stuff that we all already know, because that's the fun stuff I like to read about. But when you value different things, the money doesn't matter as much. And if you value helping kids, then you don't need to get paid as much because you're getting that payment from the joy that you're getting from working. So I love that you start off with understanding your why. What I wanted to get to and ask y'all about this is, so you talking about how you teach them to understand their why, give them some of the tools for success. But one of the main things you were talking about was helping to build their confidence. And I think we can all agree that confidence is very, very important, especially as an entrepreneur, or even, just in life, having confidence in yourself is very important. So I wanted to ask both of you, what do you do when you lose your confidence? Or from a coaching perspective, even, how do you coach somebody back up to their level of confidence that they need to be at to perform?
sounds like
Matt.
quotas for.
Oh, you were trying to throw it to me. No, guess first, my friend. All right, I'll go. Well, I mean, there's a number of ways. There's always the drill sergeant approach, right? Quit your whining, shut up, and do this. And believe me, I have that voice inside my head personally many times, and it's also a voice that I use personally that also says, "Well, what's the worst that can happen?" And I think learning that, because in this sense, particularly when we're talking about our transitioning service members, our fellows at THF, nobody's going to die when you do this. Nobody's going to die if you make that decision. Nobody's, and oh, by the way, when you sign that offer letter, you're not signing an enlistment contract that says you go to jail if you don't do this. Those kind of things to help understand, because when you start to think about that and getting back to the confidence, is what are those things that you've done in the past? And this is kind of in the coaching world. When have you done something similar to that and felt like, man, I kicked ass? In that sense, and that is an empowering memory, because it's proof that you've done it before. Anything. Hell, I successfully took the trash can out on Tuesday morning and got it out to the curb before the trash arrived. Success, and you build on those, and you keep doing that and doing that and doing that until you get to the hard stuff.
Yeah, I think that's very true, because I think that's something I definitely, and I'm a to-do list person. We've talked about it before, but there is something about having 5 or 6 easy to-dos that I knock out before I do my big stuff. You definitely kind of flips your mindset a little bit and puts you in a little bit more confident, on the forward foot with that. So I totally agree.
Yeah.
Well, you got to throw out there Admiral McRaven, our buddy Admiral McRaven, and his make your bed, right? Because that's kind of like taking the trash can out on Tuesday morning. That's a pretty easy win to kick my day off. Get up and make your bed every day. That's a very defined task that is accomplished to move forward from.
And I'll dive in and just say, throughout our program, what we do is we pair everybody up with a coach like Otis. And the coaches are a critical part of our process. We couldn't do it because you have a completely objective viewpoint coming in, and some are veterans, some are not. and it's just an objective sounding board to help through the process. And I think the coaches, they bring so much value to that exact question is like, what in the world am I qualified to do? What do I want to do? What can I do? Answering, I mean, it's not something you generally come to overnight. Doesn't matter if you've been in for 4 years or 40 years. You might have some ideas, but really being able to bounce the ideas and the conversation off of a coach,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's super helpful. I mean, it really is. And so I like everything you said, Otis. I think that's spot on, right? And it's different for everybody. How do you find that confidence? I think in many cases through our program, we demonstrate vulnerability. We share a lot of personal stories. We get people who have transitioned well and not well to come in and share what they've done with the cohorts going through the program. So, when you as a transitioning service member see, like, one of my favorites is we get a Medal of Honor winner to come in, and he talks about his transition and how it was not easy, and his first job lasted 3 days because he was not ready to do it. And when they see a Medal of Honor winner talking about his own struggles, and they're like, okay, yeah, this isn't going to be easy for me, but that guy can do it. I can do it. And then we have a pretty big support network just to, and we're not going to give anybody false confidence that, hey, just because you're a veteran, you're going to crush it. I mean, it's hard work, Otis, you can attest to. Like, if you apply the same skill sets, though, that got you into whatever organization you're part of, or, a Green Beret, a SEAL, a Ranger, whatever, that methodology will generally lead to success somewhere else if you're willing to try new things, speak about yourself, network like it's going out of style, and just keep hitting it until you find that thing, whatever it is.
I want to hit on that networking thing. I'm glad you said that, because that was actually what I wanted to jump into next, is the 1,000 cups of coffee. Yeah. That to me, I mean, again, I'm having not gone through it, but that to me,
you're welcome to go through it if you'd like to.
Put me back through school. Hopefully, you know what, maybe you can make me right if you did that. But I want to say the 1,000 cups of coffee is an amazing thing. And for those who don't understand, basically it is challenging the fellows to have 1,000 cups of coffee with people in their network and expand their network, and using their existing network to expand out both, their personal network and the THF greater network, and expand out. I'm curious, when you did that, Matt, what did you learn? What was the best experience out of 1,000 cups of coffee?
The best experience. That's a great question. I think, part of it's just the process of getting out of your comfort zone and doing it, right? So the first couple are pretty easy. Like, hey, I know Otis. I'm going to give him a call. He's been out for a couple of years. That's the easy one that we encourage people to start with. Then what's next, right? So you should always leave one of those networking encounters with, like, hey, do you recommend that I talk to somebody else? Who would you recommend? And ultimately that circle gets wider and wider until you're kind of arcing way out of your personal network to people who you don't know, but you might have some warm introduction. And then when you have a really great conversation with somebody that's, completely disassociated with the military, but just a great American who wants to help you figure it out, that's super fulfilling. And a lot of times that can lead to long-term relationships. So the networking aspect of it is key to figure out, what might interest you in your next thing. Because the biggest question for me is, like, I have no idea what I want to do. I don't want to work with anybody that's a dick anymore. That was kind of it, right? But where can I apply whatever limited skill set I have to the private sector? And so figuring that out was hard. So I whittled it down ultimately to kind of like something in the tech startup space or tech space. But I had a lot of great conversations with folks, virtually and here in Virginia Beach where I live. I can't put a finger on one particular that was just like the answer to everything, but so many people were willing to help. That in itself was pretty incredible.
Okay, Cam.
Didn't have
All
one.
right. Well, you had that look. All right. This is why I edit the show, by the way.
Yeah, it turns out I'm gonna ask a question look and you ask a question look are darn close to the same thing.
Yes, they are. Yes, they are. No, I'm like I said, I'm a fan of the Thousand Cups, and the reason is I go back to some of my, unconventional warfare heritage, and this is a lesson I teach to the fellows when I'm coaching them. It's nothing more than getting in there and identifying my target and using a network to get to my target. And when you start to, and this goes back to what we were talking about earlier, those troop leading procedures, we have the skill sets in our head. We just have to learn to translate them. And when the fellows, at least in my experience, when the fellows hear that, they instantly, at least the ones that I've coached, I hear this aha moment come from, and they relax because they've switched into a different mindset of the networking, and they're networking with intention to go somewhere with it, to get to a target set. And when you think about it that way from our community, it to me, and from the guys and gals I've coached, it relaxes them because they're back in their comfort zone, because that's the stuff that they've done, with people that they didn't know and environments they were barely familiar with. Guess what? You're doing the same thing. So that's why I'm such a huge fan of the Thousand Cups of Coffee.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. It's you have a lot of the inherent skill sets that you don't know you have, and it's all about the translation. And you probably already have the mindset that to be successful, you have to go do it. And so that's when you combine the skill set, the mindset, a lot of great things can happen. And the thing about networking is data shows that like 1.8% of the population actually gets a job through a job application site on a portal or a website or monster.com. It's so like you're just going to get crushed and disappointed if that's all you're doing. But 97.5% of your people who find the right jobs, it's through networking and relationship building. So that's another key point, is comes down to a lot of the relationships. And can you present yourself in a manner that makes other people want to talk to you some more, right? Do you have something compelling to say? What's your story, right? Not just your stats. I was a Navy SEAL, I did this, I did that. Okay, that might get you in the door, right? Coming from where we come from, but it's not gonna completely make you successful.
One thing I'm curious about as we're talking about this, something that keeps popping in my head, is about imposter syndrome that you get with a lot of, I put it more entrepreneurs. I know it's more prevalent among the younger generations. So I'm curious, is that something that you ever really wind up combating as you're going through this? Because it seems like your system's pretty well built to block that out the whole time, because you're focusing on understanding your why, understanding your story and all of that. So is that something, have you been able to pretty much close that off?
Yeah, I haven't seen much of that where folks are really concerned about the imposter syndrome, because we try to connect folks with other people in whatever they're interested in. So if they think they want to be an entrepreneur, we'll connect them with entrepreneurs, and generally they get the truth pretty quickly. Like, hey, most successful entrepreneurs, they just have a drive, right? The never quit type drive, and they're willing to take risk. So our folks generally have that already. So it's really just about the confidence, not really imposter syndrome, in my opinion. I don't know. Otis, you may see something different.
I figured with the background of the folks you're working with that it wouldn't be much of a problem, but I had to get it out there.
Yeah, there is it's not imposter syndrome, but confidence goes way down. Like, hey, can I provide for my family at the level I need to? That is a huge question. Like, hey, can I do it? Number one, what can I do? And And what if I do fail? And it's a real thing too when you sign on with your first gig out of the military. Otis talked about not signing an enlistment contract, but I can tell you from experience, I felt a deep sense of loyalty to that company that gave me a shot, and it probably forced me to stay a little longer than I should have, because I didn't want to let them down, right? And if I had left because I wanted to, that'd be, me quitting on them versus just following my passion. You know what I mean? So it's that's a real thing.
That's a great point, and I think that's one of the things that gets overlooked also, is that loyalty, the natural loyalty we have, and we have to be careful with that. And it's because it's not always a two-way street. And I had a civilian friend I'm doing some work with that she asked me, no association with the military whatsoever, so naive in that respect. And she asked me what's the differentiator? You're a Green Beret. What's the differentiator? What do you bring that's different? And because of course she compared me to a Navy SEAL, and I didn't hang up the phone with her on her, but I am curious. So what's the differentiator that special operator, if you want, or define it down to a SEAL, brings to the table?
Yeah, I'll keep it broad because I like all special ops folks. Doesn't matter to me.
Playing the game, brother.
No, I need to get one of those shirts that you have there from Brent Cooper.
Call them out.
The differentiator is that they're proven performers, right? They have some internal sense of drive that leads them to success no matter what. It got them in there. Number one, they're dedicated to serving a cause greater than themselves, even if it's a really cool job. That volunteer, so they step off and they volunteer to serve, knowing that they probably have a 70% chance of not making it through, whatever training, selection, and assessment program they're going through. They attack it, they prepare for it, they attack it. You're not going to show up to selection on day one, whatever it is, and if you haven't prepared, not going to be successful. So they've taken the time to prepare, they've executed, and then they've served honorably, and probably crushed it, while in that elite unit. And so I guess it comes back, if I'd had to say just one thing, it's that never quit, never die drive that is going to lead them to success no matter what. And there's a lot of tangents that come off of that. They can, problem solving, operating in ambiguous environments where, hey, go deploy here and figure it out, right? Here's my intent. And operating in a pretty unconstrained environment with only intent, and then understanding that several levels up so that, whatever actions you take really tie into the larger purpose and the larger mission. So that's what I would probably answer that with, Otis.
That's great, and I appreciate that. And I'm curious, because I got one more big question, big hard thinking question for you. But I'm also in the sense of, since you've been the CEO of THF, how are you continuing to expand your network and knowledge?
Yeah, so I love to meet new people, and one of the things that I didn't really expect as the CEO is how much time I'd have to spend on the fundraising aspect, because we provide this service free to all transitioning personnel from the special ops community. And so I'm on the road quite a bit trying to raise money, and through that process, I get to meet a lot of really cool people, great Americans who've been successful in their own paths and journeys. And so I'm always learning from them, trying to dive into what makes them successful, and really digging into the intangibles of good leaders of various corporations, businesses, how they were successful when most other people aren't, because that's pretty big parallel. Most entrepreneurs fail within a few years, but the successful ones, what was the differentiating factor with them? a lot of times it's just pure perseverance that that is the differentiator. Somebody's not going to quit no matter what. So it's pretty cool to go out and meet folks like that. And then on the other side, like the programming side, it's we're always looking to improve our program. We haven't taken and we don't take any government money, so we're not bound to any particular curriculum. So we can do what works and change it the next class if it doesn't work or if it gets really bad reviews. And so we're always looking for the best way to do things. And that's, I mean, there's so much great stuff out there that we have some pretty good flexibility to adjust when necessary. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, yeah, it does. It does. But and then the next one builds onto it is what's next for the Honor Foundation? What's your your vision, next steps, next growth, whatever you want to frame it, but in that growth type of thing.
Yeah, another great question. You're good at this. So the Honor
It's
Foundation.
easy for me to ask the hard questions.
Yeah, no, it's good. The Honor Foundation really was born from the NSW community. I'm not the founder of it, and the founder was going through SEAL training, was injured, and kind of stuck in Coronado, California, as he was medically retired from the Navy after a year in the Navy, and that takes a while. So he was going through rehab and started the Honor Foundation where he saw a gap, and so that very concentrated naval special warfare community in Coronado. Then it grew to Virginia Beach, which is where I got involved. The Marine Raiders from Pendleton were coming down to the San Diego class. And so then they asked us to stand up a cohort or a class out near Lejeune, where the East Coast Raider community is. In 2019, we realized that, unless your command, if you were somebody else in the special ops community, if your command wasn't willing to give you a permissive TDY and so you could physically travel to Virginia Beach or San Diego or Camp Lejeune, it was pretty limited. And so we created a virtual platform to serve the rest of the special ops community. So we now have a virtual campus. We ran one cohort in 2019. We're doing 3 this year. In 2021, we'll be prepared to do 6 of them. And then we really want to be able to serve everybody under the SOCOM umbrella. That's about 66,000 active duty personnel through our programs and support, by 2025. And so we're probably going to expand our physical presence to a couple places where there's really high concentrations of special ops folks. And you probably name them just as well as I could, but it's Fort Bragg, North Carolina, where the center of gravity for Army Special Ops is. It's Hurlburt Field, Eglin Air Force Base, where the center of gravity for Air Force Special Ops and 7th Special Forces Group. Probably Fort Campbell, Fort Lewis, where there's Special Forces groups and other organizations like TF-160s out there in Campbell, and then up at Lewis you have a Special Forces group and a Ranger Battalion. So in the next few years, would really like to get a presence out there in those locations, so that we can support more people. I think we have a proven methodology that works. I attended it. I attended some other programs. I think ours is best in class. And, this is what we want to do. We want to help as many people as we can. It may not be the right fit for everybody, but it's pretty damn good. So that's where we're going.
No, that's great. I appreciate you sharing that and giving us that vision of where you're seeing growth. And I just thought of something, and this is a little different. Could you, or do you have a one, because the Honor Foundation is big about story. Do you have one fellow story that's like your favorite story of success, and yours doesn't count? Just so you know, you can't tell your story.
Yeah, mine's a big disappointment anyways.
Yeah.
There's so many, but I'll tell you a really cool story that, happened really early on. I took over the CEO role in February of 2019. And one of my first orders of business was to kind of travel to our different locations, see how our program directors were delivering the program, just so I could understand it. And I was at one location that will remain nameless, and I had a senior enlisted operator come up to me and say, "Hey, sir, you got a minute?" And you know,
Is there something else I can help with?
Siri going on for some reason. Apologize.
That's all right. That's a first.
Yeah.
Anyways, a senior enlisted operator came up to me and asked if I had a minute, which, while in active duty, would have meant I was about to get my ass chewed about something I had just done. So I was like, "Yeah, absolutely." I didn't know the guy, and walked off to the side. It was at around dinner time. We feed him dinner, and he pulled me aside and he said, "Hey, I just want you to know that you know, I'd gotten in some trouble before I getting out. I was going down a pretty dark path. My family was falling apart. My kids didn't like me. Work was going terrible, and I think it would have ended really badly for me personally, physically, if I had stayed on that path. And after just 3 weeks of this program, it's given me the confidence to really turn everything around. And you know, you saved my marriage, you saved my family, and you probably saved my life. And so, you know, that, I'm like, my third week of the job is pretty powerful. You know, like, all right, I'm in 100%.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's pretty awesome.
Oh, that's awesome feedback. Just one of those great check the box. Wow. And carry it around in your pocket, I bet, quite a bit, don't you?
Yeah. I mean, you do that once, you know, and it drive you for the rest of your life to make sure that if there's somebody else like that that's having problems, and we can offer a solution, even if it's a tangential, not main focus of what we do, you know, it's I'll get up every morning and do this all day, every day.
That's great. And I appreciate it, man. And I appreciate you taking some time today. Because now it's time for a little bit of a shift in what we learn. And obviously Camden will go last. Just in case anybody was pulling for Camden, you know, I don't know what the betting pool's like on whether or not I'm going to let Camden go first, but the odds are usually pretty low on that one. So
you're probably fixing those bets anyway.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Well, and you know, for me, it's, you know, a lot of times the what I learned is kind of the blinding flash, the obvious, or the reminder or something, or the rewording. And this one kind of falls into the rewording, and it's a great reminder also. And it's that what you said early on, Matt, was being honest with each other if you want to be successful. And that's just one of those little critical threads that sometimes just gets taken for granted in an organization, and particularly in a team. That if you don't have honesty and openness within that organization, you can't have success. You may achieve some things, but you sure as hell ain't gonna have success.
Yeah.
So, Matt, what'd you learn?
You know, unfortunately I did most of the talking, but you know, you brought up the networking piece of transition, and really it's in life in general. You know, it's the networking leads to opportunities, and the networking is all about relationships and creating relationships. And so, tying back to your point, I just think that refocus on the networking aspect of what we do, and really in anybody in any kind of transition, it's your opportunities and your fulfillment and your deep-seated personal relationships are going to come from networking. And it's not the used carsman salesman kind of networking thing that we all start with the preconceived notion of. It's really a deeper kind of networking that leads to success.
Great. Appreciate that, man. Camden, what'd you learn?
Well, I was just about to change mine because I loved that what you said there right at the end about kind of shifting the way you look at networking. That's a good one. But I'll go back to my original, which is I loved that for your process at the Honor Foundation, that understanding your why was kind of one of the essential first steps to building your confidence up and then using that to become successful. And whatever that success is for you, but you have to understand that why so that you can figure out where you want to be going in life.
Awesome.
Matt, how can people support the Honor Foundation, get in touch with you, or all of the above?
Yeah, we're always looking for folks to donate their time as coaches, mentors, faculty, hire the talent coming out of the special ops community. Or if you know somebody that's super talented in the field, let us know. And then, of course, we're a nonprofit, so we could use your financial support. Pretty easy. Go to honor.org. Check out the website. It lists numerous ways to get involved, numerous ways to donate. A lot of great information rests on that. People can hit me up directly. My email is simple, Matt, M-A-T-T, @honor.org, and then go from there. So they can either hit a general inquiry on the website or hit me directly. But love to hear from you, and want to thank you guys very much for this incredible opportunity. You're doing phenomenal work, and I really appreciate it. And Otis, thank you for being part of our coaching tribe and for all the time and talent that you dedicate to our transitioning special operators.
Well, thanks, Matt. This has been fun. I appreciate your time. And since it is Veterans Day, and I'm going to give a couple of plugs. Like Matt said, Veterans Day is about veterans. So taking care of veterans, those that have served, those that are still with us that have served, give them a chance. Look for those opportunities to support them. And it ain't just about a free lunch on the 11th of November. It's bigger. It's a bigger thing than that. So take a bigger approach, open your aperture up, and give that veteran, maybe just a little bit of a chance, and let them run and see what they can do. Because I guarantee you're going to be surprised at how successful and how quickly they adapt and solve and create success for you and your organization. And I'll also plug this evening, notice my future time talking, this evening that Verby is running a special veteran fundraiser with myself, Jeff Bosley, and Scott Kinder jumping on and talking about how to create success. And that event is in sponsorship or supporting the other organization we're talking about here, the Green Beret Foundation. And it's a great organization and helps out particularly Green Berets, both active duty servicemen as they recover and their families, and our Gold Star Green Beret families. So check that out this evening. You can find more about that at Verby.com. That's VIR-BEE.com. And I'm done plugging, I think, for today. I'll probably think of some other things later on, but this will work. Been a great show, Matt. Really enjoyed having you on. Camden, run us out.
All right. Thank you all again for listening to today's show. Special thanks to Matt Stevens for joining us today, and our sponsors, MASH, Military and Athletic Strength Hemp Oil, and Verby Virtual Events. You can check out recent episodes of The Cam and Otis Show on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts, and check out a full archive at thecamandotisshow.buzzsprout.com. Cam and Otis Show is on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Thanks again, and we'll see y'all next week.